followed the channel for any amount of time, you'll know there's two things that I really do love. The first one is Marvel, and the second one is creating guides and playing around with characters and theory crafting. So Marvel's Avengers really is a perfect fit for me. Now I know it is still day one, it feels longer than that because I was actually up till 4 o'clock in the morning on the launch day at 12 AM last night making videos, but it is still day number one. But despite that, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to have a look at Captain America's kit, and although we don't have upgraded gear or anything like that for him, and I've still to try a lot of the abilities, I'm going to give my general impressions on his kit and the general direction that I imagine I will be taking him in as well. Now this may change, we may get artifacts that could very well change the build that I'm thinking I'm going to go for, but for a bit of fun anyway, I figured we would jump in and have a look and see what we can come up with in day number one. So let's check out all these abilities. So we do have an absolute ton of abilities to work through here, so what I'll do is I'll really just talk in depth about the ones that I feel are build defining, because a lot of abilities, like the one we're actually on at the moment, is just something that other characters have as well. There's nothing that's really unique about that at all. So we'll skip past that one here. We're on Cartwheel Kick. I will mention that with your abilities, for your light and your heavy, we get the option to hold them down to charge them to break through shields. You want to upgrade one of them as soon as you can, so that when shielded enemies appear, you can take them down nice and quick. We just have an upgrade to that there. And then this is where things get interesting from the build perspective. So with Cap, you've got two options. You can build them more offensive or defensive orientated, and it's all really around his shield and blocking, so I really love that. So what you'll do is you'll hold down your shield block button, that's your right trigger, and then if you press light attack to actually parry it, you get a buff called Captain's Charge. Now with this, while the buff is active, this increases the damage and impact of the next light, heavy or ranged attack by 10%. So after doing this, you most likely would want to hold down a heavy charged attack because it'll be doing more damage, and as a result of that it'll get a larger buff to it. Now just quickly zoom up to the top of the tree here. It's a bit of a nightmare to navigate the UI, to be honest. I don't like how they've done it at all, but we've got your mid-air attack. You're always pretty important. And then let's see, this can be really important, your opener. So again, you go for the light or the heavy, just so when you run in, you can get somebody staggered straight away there. And then we've got just a standard dodge ability. So let's have a look at the heavy attacks now. So we start off here with the heavy attacks. This is your opener once again, so go for the light or the heavy opener just to start off the fight. And then we have Grand Slam, which is just a regular move you can do after dodging, nothing that interesting about that one. You can upgrade combos here, adding a heavy attack to the end of them, again, nothing that unique about that. Looking at Shield Smash, this is your heavy attack, so we'll be taking down shields via this. We then have Shield Bash, once again, your charged ability, so go for this or the light charged ability ASAP. You've got the option of upgrading it here, but the interesting part comes from Commander's Call. So this is the defensive equivalent of the ability we talked about in depth a moment ago. So with this one, when you're blocking, rather than actually pressing light attack, you press heavy. Send out a shockwave, and what it does is it taunts enemies nearby, drawing their attention. So that for me is really interesting, and when I'm building Cap, I'm going to be building a tanky protector style Cap. It takes all the damage while all the other teammates can wail away on the enemies without worrying too much. So when you actually taunt as well, it triggers something called the Captain's Defense buff. It significantly reduces the cost for blocking enemy attacks by 50% and reduces all damage taken by 15%. It does drain your intrinsic energy, I should have mentioned that, for the more offensive ability as well. They both drain it, and then you just attack just to get it back up again. Let's just quickly check this out here. You've got Shield Dive. Abilities like this are actually really important, especially the second one, because if you're surrounded by enemies and you actually upgrade this, you can jump in the air and you hover in there for a second or two, which gets you away from the enemies, and then you'll slam down, doing a whole lot of damage as well. We have the ranged attacks next. These are actually a lot more interesting than I thought they would be. So you've got your regular thrown out, your shield. You can then upgrade it to ricochet throw, so it will target up to 3 enemies. You just move over them to mark them. You can upgrade that to 4 and then upgrade it to 5. We then have an ability I'm pretty sure he done in one of the movies, I'm not sure which one. It looks amazing. Shield Kick, so he throws the shield out, and if you time it right with the right trigger, then you can actually kick it back towards the enemy. Amazing looking, I love that they've done stuff like that. And then we have Resolute Throw, similar to the last one. You can throw the shield out, and then when it comes back, if you actually use it again, you can get additional damage there. So that's the shield abilities, so let's look at the intrinsics. This is all tied in with his shield now. So firstly, his intrinsic is shield block. So with this, you hold down the right trigger, you block incoming attacks, it drains your shield block energy. Strong attacks will deplete all the energy, and unblockable attacks, that's your red ones, cannot be blocked. And blocking does not inhibit movement and is effective in mid-air, so you can do a mid-air block, which is pretty cool. Now, also with this, you've got shield parry. Other characters have this, I'm not actually going to concentrate on it too much. And then we have Rebounder, which is really interesting. So blocking stops incoming physical projectiles, and parrying a projectile with right trigger using shield parry just before impact will reflect the projectile back at the attacker. Does not reflect beam attacks, however the next one does mirror shield, and I'm pretty certain you can actually fire Cap's or Iron Man's unibeam off this as well, which is really amazing. They've went to that level of detail there. Looking at additional bonuses we have here, you've got Undefeatable Spirit. So with this, it reduces intrinsic shield block energy cost when blocking attacks, so basically you can block for longer. There's a further upgrade to that there, and then one more again, so that's a total of 45% additional you can get for that. And then we have your Counter Strike, which is a light counter attack. You can do that after you've parried, nothing too interesting. And then you've got Powerhouse, which is just another counter attack after parrying there. But that's all the primary abilities. As mentioned, the really important one, I'll quickly go back over it again. Apologies if I'm a bit all over the place with this cursor here. But the really important one for me is Commander's Call. That's giving you that taunt, and then from there Cap can do his thing. But let's now have a look at the speciality tree. So this will be your heroic abilities here. So we start off with this support heroic ability. This is one that I'll try and go quite hard in Cap, so I can get it up more often. But with this here, enemies in proximity and those attacked while Rally Cry is active are marked, and enemies marked by Rally Cry take additional damage from all sources. Now we won't look at the middle tree for it, but we'll look at the modifiers here. So you can choose one of 3 on each side. So the first one you've got here, you can increase the duration of Rally Cry by 5 seconds. You can make it so activating Rally Cry significantly reduces all incoming damage and taunts all enemies within proximity drawn aggro away from nearby teammates. This is the one that I'd be going for with a tank build. And then we have Call to Arms. Triggering Rally Cry grants a defensive buff that reduces damage by 25% for all nearby strike team members. So you can actually have your strike team members taking less damage, or you can have everyone focus on you. That's from that tree. Next one we have here, you've got Hold the Line. So defeated enemies marked by Rally Cry have a 35% chance to drop a regen pack. This would be good for getting your health back. And then you've got defeated enemies marked by Rally Cry have a 50% chance to drop an intrinsic orb, so that'll put your shield block back up. And else you have threat control. Critical attacks on enemies marked by Rally Cry deal 15% bonus stun damage. I would say if I was going for anything, I would go for Hold the Line, so you've got a higher chance of actually getting some health back there. Now, Assault heroic ability wise, this is Steamroller. This one, you press the right trigger or the right bumper even to instantly target up to 4 enemies and throw the shield with incredible force, dealing significant damage as it ricochets between them. So this isn't really tied in too much with a tanky build, but let's run over the options. So the first one you have is Secret Weapon. You can hold up to 2 charges of Steamroller heroic ability. It'll be nice for clearing the room, nice and quick. You have Tidebreaker. Press the right trigger as the shield returns from a Steamroller attack to kick the shield back out, dealing additional heroic damage. This one, you could actually potentially mess it up, so I wouldn't use this one at all here. I'd probably use the one above, if anything. And then you've got increased stun damage by Steamroller by 25%. Given the cooldown on the abilities, don't think it's that useful, so I would go for the first one where you're getting the additional charge. Now you have Second Wind, so every 2 enemies defeated with Steamroller generate a regen pack. From a tanky perspective, that could actually be pretty good, that one there. And then Vanguard Choice, every 2 enemies defeated with Steamroller generate a heroic orb to get your heroic more often. It could actually tie in with getting your support heroic and taunting more often, so I need to play around with that. But then you've got Everyday Hero. This one here, every 2 enemies defeated with Steamroller generates an intrinsic orb, and again that means you can actually block for longer there. Now the ultimate heroic ability is Brooklyn Brawler, so you'll hold down both your bumper buttons, perform a powerful shield slam. It refills your intrinsic energy and stops enemies in their tracks. After the shield slam, all damage and defensive strength is increased, and a new light attack combo is temporarily available. Basically throws the shield out all over the screen. It looks amazing. So looking at the different options we have here, we've got CQC Specialist. This one, while Brooklyn Brawler is active, takedowns can be performed on critically wounded enemies. We then have Critical Acclaim. So while Brooklyn Brawler is active, light combo finishers have increased damage and deal guaranteed critical attack damage. Or you have Strong Arm. So with Strong Arm, while Brooklyn Brawler is active, ranged attack damage and impact are increased by 25%. I would actually go for this one here, because when you do a takedown you actually get health back, so this will make it easier to get your takedowns and keep your health up. Looking at the next tree here, it's Adrenaline Rush. So you've got the option of takedowns extend duration of Brooklyn Brawler by 3 seconds. That's just going to help you to pump out more damage, and I suppose you could do some more takedowns as well. Then you've got Unwavering Defense. While Brooklyn Brawler is active, blocking will stop any attack. In fact, that's the one you're going to want to be going for with the tanky build on cap. And then we have Unfair Advantage. This one here, you gain 25% more energy to Brooklyn Brawler when collecting heroic orbs. Now let's very quickly look at the movement abilities, and then we'll finish up with the Mastery Tree. This one here, you've got Wall Run. Makes him look like a character out of Prince of Persia, to be honest. It's a bit strange for Cap. We've got Brawler's Escape. You press the dodge button to dodge an incoming attack. Dodging just before an incoming attack lands will execute a perfect dodge there. And then we've got Holding Down to flip over. And then finally we've got your Somersault ability as well. All pretty basic, to be honest. So let's look at the Mastery Tree now. So we have a fair amount of options here as well. You've got Combat, Ranged, Efficiency, and then Intrinsic. So let's run through them. The first one is a melee upgrade you can choose. You've got increase the damage by 25% of both light and heavy combo finishers, increase the stun damage of all attacks by 15%, and increase range damage. I would go for increase the stun on a tanky build, because then you're more likely to stun an enemy and you can do a takedown on them and get some health back. You've got Melee Expertise up next. This one here, let's check them out. You've got Air Juggling Mastery. So increase the critical attack damage by 15% when air juggling enemies. Nothing too interesting there for our setup. Combo Specialization. Increase the critical attack damage by 15% of both light and heavy attack combo finishers. And then Melee Specialization. Boost heroic charge speed by 1% when dealing damage with either light or heavy attacks. So I would say that one might be worthwhile. Get your heroics up even quicker and get that taunt on the go as well. I'd probably go for that bottom one, in fact. We then have Takedown Recovery. So this one here, this is tied in with your takedowns, of course. Increase the amount of willpower recovered for performing a takedown, so you get more health back. Or you can have Takedown Specialization here. This one is performing a takedown spawns a heroic orb, and else you have the option of generating a regen pack when performing a takedown. So option 1 or option 3 I would go for there. Now let's look at the ranged abilities here. So you've got Shield Throw and Mastery. If we look at the modifiers, you can quickly press the right trigger after the ranged combo finisher to Shield Throw to perform a follow-up attack. You've got the ranged combo finisher Shield Throw can pin enemies, dragging them into the air and into walls. That animation was amazing. Let's see that again. There we go. That's pretty amazing like that. That could be useful if it actually holds them out of the way. That's something that a tank would do. An aspect of crowd control almost. Or you've got Enhanced Throw. So increase the speed and damage of all shield throws. I would go for this one here, because the fact that it sits well with a tanky style character. We have your Throw Mastery next. So your options are Perfect Catch. Press right trigger when catching the shield to boost the damage. You've then got Power Throw damage, increased damage by 15% against each target that's hit by a ranged power attack. That would work really nice with the Ricochet ability, all the targets you're hitting. And then you've got increase the stun damage. I would go for this one here. Increase the stun damage, most likely to get a takedown and then get health back as a result of it. The next one we have is Throw Utility. So looking at the options here, 10% chance to generate a regen pack when defeating enemies with headshots. That could be useful there. I don't know how often you will be actually proccing it. And then you've got Precision, Heroic, Dynamo, 15% chance to generate a heroic orb when defeating enemies with headshots. And then Precision, Intrinsic, Dynamo, 25% to generate an intrinsic orb when defeating enemies with headshots. So I would go for probably option 1 or 2. I would go for this one here, or the one above it there to get your regen packs. Now, looking at efficiency, you've got block energy specialisation with this here energy boost, so increase the maximum amount of intrinsic shield block energy by 15%, could be useful for blocking longer. You've got increase the base regen speed of intrinsic shield block. I would need to test it to see which one works out better. And then recover 40% intrinsic shield block energy when performing a takedown. Looking at all the stun moves we'd actually be using, this one could be really good. This is the one I would say I would most likely go for. Now the middle tree is block energy efficiency, so looking at the options here, increase the maximum amount of intrinsic shield block energy by 15%, increase the base regen speed once again, and then reduce the penalty by 2.5 seconds when energy regen begins when intrinsic shield block is depleted. Really not sure which one I would go for out of them, to be honest. I'd have to play around. So we have block energy mastery next. This one here, increase the maximum amount of intrinsic shield block energy by 15%, so it looks like you can really ramp that up there. Reduce the amount of intrinsic shield block energy expended in blocking by an attack by 25%, that's actually a fair amount. And then grant a burst of 20 points of intrinsic shield block energy when performing a parry. Once again, these ones here, I would really need to actually try them out before I could make an informed decision on them. Moving on to the final tree here, we have heavy defensive attacks. So looking at the options available, you've got reduce the cost of intrinsic attacks by 15%, increase the timing window to parry incoming attacks by 20%, which is pretty useful when you use the captain's defense buff. But you've also got increased the duration of the captain's defense buff by 8 seconds. That, without a doubt, is the one we would go for there. Now, next up is light defensive attack. We have further reduced the cost of intrinsic attacks. You have defeating 2 enemies with Commander's parry refreshes all intrinsic shield block energy, and then you have the captain's charge buff now lasts for 2 attacks. This one here isn't really relevant to our build, to be honest. Now the final one we have is defensive attack expertise. Looking at the options available here, while the captain's charge buff is active, melee and ranged attacks will break enemy block. You've then got iron defense. While the captain's defense buff is active, that's one we'll be using often. You have blocking attacks, drains no intrinsic energy, and buff is triggered by the commander's call ability. That's the one I'd most likely go for. And then you have increase the duration of taunt caused by commander's call by 5 seconds. Actually, option number 2 or 3, it would be hard to actually choose out of the 2. Now, didn't actually realise how in-depth it would be to run over these, and as mentioned, I was up till 4 o'clock doing videos, so I'm exceptionally tired, so apologies if this video is a little bit rough around the edges, but hopefully it's given you a good look at Captain America's skill trees and an idea if you want to build them to be a tanky character such as I most likely will be doing, the general route that you would go in. But let me know what you think of Captain America and his skill trees, which way you're going to take him build wise, and thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.